1 month ago, I started learning game development. This video is about my progress so far. On the 14th of August, I installed Unity on my rubbish 10-year-old laptop, crossed my fingers and hoped for the best. For the first week, my plan was to do as many tutorials on YouTube as possible, starting with one I'd found that would guide me through learning the basics of Unity by building a fun little Angry Birds clone. And so, my journey into game development began. Throughout the tutorial, I learned a whole heap of cool things. I learned how to create a player with an animation and add physics to that player so I could sling it around the screen. I learned how to create a level by importing a background and then create other objects like boxes and monsters and add physics to those too. I learned how to use Unity's camera system to follow the player and the enemies, which made the game look really cool and dynamic. Finally, I learnt about the particle system and how to create and add effects to spice up enemy destruction, which made it way more satisfying to hit one of the monsters. I couldn't believe how easy and accessible it was to get into game development using Unity. Once I'd finished the tutorial, I felt I was ready to load up a new Unity project and start my very own game. And so my journey began. Again. Time to let the magic happen. What do I do again? Actually, maybe I'm not quite ready yet. In my second week, I decided I needed to redo the same tutorial for a second time before finding another one. Everything in Unity was also new to me, and it had obviously not sunk in. I eventually wanted to create some kind of platformer, so decided to find a tutorial that would teach me how to do that. With this one, I learned how to create the basics of a 2D platformer using free assets from Unity's asset store. I learned to create levels with Unity's tile system. I learned how to create a player character and add side-to-side movement and jumping. I learned how to add state animations to the player for standing still, running and jumping. By week 3, I was amazed at what I could create in a relatively short amount of time. By this point, I had probably spent about 20 hours doing step-by-step tutorials, and I was getting impatient and just wanted to start my own game. I always learn best by trying stuff myself anyway, so I sacked off the rest of the tutorial and loaded up a new Unity project. Again. I wanted to create a fun physics-based platformer, so the first thing I needed was a playable character. I'd seen other game developers using Photoshop to create these characters, but I have like zero experience using it, and so that's just going to be another steep learning curve I have to climb. I decided to try and keep it simple and create a basic stickman, and then I wanted him to turn into a ragdoll if he was hit by a boulder or something. So I got to work. I designed him in Photoshop, imported him into Unity, and then tried to link all the pieces together to make him flop on the floor. This took me forever. After several iterations of trying loads of different things, I found an amazing tutorial which showed me how to give my little stickman muscles and then flex those muscles to make him stand on his own 2 feet. I managed to write some code to relax these muscles when he came into contact with a boulder. This made him flop gloriously to the floor in a hot, sticky mess. So after several hours, I had my floppy little ragdoll man that I could flop and flex with the touch of a button. And a few hours later, I had him jumping around, dying and coming back to life. Using my new little buddy, I built a fun mini-game where the stickman had to avoid some randomly generated boulders. I guess this was my very first game. At this point, I was going to start learning how to do backgrounds and characters in Photoshop, but then I thought this is going to be too much for me to learn, and really, I just wanted to get a game made that was fun to play, had a menu, and had some sort of scoring system. So I loaded up yet another new Unity project and got to work. I had an idea for a really simple game, where you have a little character trying to escape a meteor shower. I decided to just start with the basics, which in my mind would just be to create the stickman trying to dodge meteorites for as long as possible, and see if I could just make that fun to play. I imported my stickman player from my other project, then just thought I'd make a meteorite, add an effect, and get it to start spawning randomly above the player. I struggled with the particle effect for a while. I still didn't really know enough about them to attach it to the meteor. But that was okay because I found out about the trail renderer, which was much simpler, and this gave me my meteor trail. I was already so happy with how this was turning out, I now had the basis of my first proper game. Over the next few development sessions, I learnt and added all kinds of cool things. I managed to get to grips with the particle system in order to create a small explosion when the meteors landed. I created a new camera which followed the player from side to side, and this expanded the playable area of my game. I added a simple timer function to the screen so you can see how long you survive for. After that, I added a simple menu which allows you to play and quit the game. As happy as I was with the game, I still thought it looked a bit bland, so I did some research on post-processing to see what I could add to make it pop a bit more and look a bit more polished maybe. So I added a bit of grain, a subtle vignette and some bloom. This made a massive difference, it just looked so much better. At this point, I only had a few things left I wanted to add to my game. I managed to add a camera shake when the meteors hit the ground, which made a massive difference to the feel of the game. I made the ground infinite, so the player could just keep running in one direction and not risk falling off. This made the game a lot more fun. I added a high score tracker to give the player a goal to aim for as well. And finally, I wanted to make the most of the ragdoll work I did at the beginning, so I added a mini explosion which propels the stickman into the air when he gets hit by a meteor. This was a lot of fun to play around with. After adding all these final bits, it's now only a day away from the end of my first month learning game development, and I've stopped working on the game for now while I work on this video. This is gameplay from the latest version of my game. I'm so happy with my first proper game. It doesn't have a name yet or anything like that. As you can see, it's pretty playable, but I want to carry on with the development at some point as I don't think it's quite finished. So the next big hurdles for me are going to be learning how to add audio to the game in the form of sound effects and music, adding some kind of mobile device controls, and finally publishing the game to a marketplace. So that's it. My first month learning game development, my first game, and my first YouTube video completed. Altogether, I've probably spent about 40 hours learning Unity. I don't have a great deal of spare time to dedicate to it in between my full-time job and being a dad, but I'm super satisfied with what I've created so far. If you'd like to follow my progress learning game development, then please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. Anyway, thanks for watching, see ya!